Well, it has been a long time since I've done anything music related. Um, let's just say there are times where I'm not into it and times that I am. And I figured, why not try it now? And I figured, okay, let's give it a shot. It's a Monday, it's September 14th, 2020. My subject this morning will be just going over some old Canadian bands and seeing the popularity of the bands, how um, how people remember these groups. There's a kind of list that I go over of how certain people rank Canadian bands. So let's see. I'm going to go to what I remember as being a place I touched on a few months ago about this subject. And we are going to go and discuss a band right now. Some of them I haven't heard of, so it makes it a little hard, but I'll give it a shot. Death from Above, 1979. Somehow this was a band that got some airplay and some discussion, but I'm not too familiar with them. Next one is July Talk, number 99. And I'm going to say that I don't know about this band either, but the one after that, I do know quite a bit about. It's Skinny Puppy. They were kind of alternative. You didn't hear them often on the radio, but every once in a while there'd be an alternative show or some kind of uh, effort from a channel that wanted to play Canadian music a little bit. So you would hear them, and they never were massive in the United States. They probably kind of barely barely made a dent in the U.S., but they did have a bit of a career. So they got to number 98 on this ranker chart. Number 97, they spelled the name wrong as far as I know on the list. They say Nick Gilder with a Uilder, and I'm going to say it's Gilder. I'm lifting my microphone just because I hear it better in my headphones when I lift it. So I'm trying to hear myself on through the headphones. Now, Nick Gilder, "Hot Child in the City" was a big song for him. I think it got to number 91 or so, number one or so. Sorry, but in the late 70s, he was also in had a song called "Roxy Roller," where on that record it featured Brian Guy Adams, and that was Brian Adams when he was probably 16 or so. He contributed some guitar on there. So obviously featuring him when he was barely known, maybe he had a bit of a buzz about his career. So Nick Gilder figured, why not just throw his name in there, and that barely charted. That was under the name Sweeney Todd, which is some reference to some British fiction or non-fictional character. I don't remember. Next is Broken Social Scene. Falls under the kind of obscure Canadian band. I don't remember the era that they were in. Probably in the 90s or so. Anvil. Okay, I have tickets that I was given to see Anvil back in the, I think it was about 1991 or two. I kept them because I didn't know who they were, and they never really became huge after that. But they were famous for not really being all that famous. They did a documentary about the band, I believe, and they talked about how they struggled and didn't really do well. I have the tickets on, the paper tickets in my scrapbook, so I still have the souvenir, but it was a show I never did see. Next, we're going to talk about a man named Paul Anka, number 94 on this top 100 chart. Obviously, better known as a singer songwriter, had many hits in the 50s. Lonely Boy. When I was 20, there was a documentary at my CJEP about him as he was 15, 16 years old, writing songs called Diana, about his babysitter. Then, of course, he wrote My Way, which, well, he co-wrote it because later on somebody sued to get partial credit for the writing. And I did actually talk to Nancy Sinatra on Twitter a few weeks ago. I mentioned I gave my opinion on what her father would have thought of Donald Trump, and she didn't appreciate my opinion. But then she kind of said, "Well, okay, I understand you weren't saying that my dad liked this guy or didn't like the guy, so we're going to say, that she was nice after all." But Paul Anka, well known for her songwriting, Tonight Show theme. By the way, this is Eddie G's Music World doing a show for the first time on music in many, many months. The last couple of shows were kind of jokey. One was with Dr. Now, talking about the overweight people that were on a show. I watched 600 Pound Life, so I figured I'd goof around and do an imitation of him. Okay, number 93, The Odds. They did have two or three songs that I heard on the radio. Never really made any big impression on anybody outside of Canada. From Montreal, I think there was some effort to get them back together about 10 years ago. There was an article in the local paper that they were trying to do that, but bands that were semi successful just in Canada, there's probably not a massive demand for more than 75 people to see them live. And there's probably zero demand for a new album by them, maybe a few hundred people. So that didn't go anywhere. 92 is Martha and the Muffins on this Canadian music ranking list. Echo Beach was big, and then they had a song about black stations, white stations. So they kind of got a little bit of like a boost in the, must have been the 80s, where there was some interest in them, and then I don't know, it just seemed to be like that the band faded out or they broke up, and there are a couple of songs that they had were not bad, pretty good alternative songs, but they couldn't sustain it for more than a couple of years. Walk Off the Earth. This is a band that's Canadian, but that also had a recent song. Now, since I don't listen to local radio, I'm mostly into satellite radio or listening to music on YouTube. I don't remember what the song was. Something about elephants? Or was that, I'm mixing them up with the band Cage? Excuse me, The Elephant. Sorry for my stomach issues that I have ongoing. That's a whole other story, which we won't bother you with. Number 90, let's see who we've got next. The Grapes of Wrath. I kind of like them. They had that mellow song from the Midwest of Canada, Prairie Provinces. I forget what it was, but it really had promise. It really had a good sound. I thought they maybe would go further than they did, but they did break up within a few years, 2-3 years. I don't think there's much going on with them at this point. The Spoons, okay, that's a band I almost had interviewed on the show. There was a couple of back and forth with them, and it kind of looked like they were interested to talk to me on the show, and they were nice about it. I wouldn't say that they were mean-spirited, like acting like they didn't want to talk. They just, things happen. Maybe they got sidetracked with different project they're doing, and it didn't happen. But it's okay. I'm not putting as much effort in the show as I used to. That doesn't help, because trying to get people on the show is pretty much something you're going to have to put a lot of effort in. And my kids have been home through the pandemic, COVID, and yes, it's an excuse, because I could have grabbed time here and there and do a show. If I really, really wanted to, it could have been done. But a lot of the show is mental. You have to be into it. You have to be in the right frame of mind to do it. I had a friend, Robin, that wanted to talk about his experiences and what's going on in his life, and he's a very interesting guy. And I kind of was tempted to start to do that today, but my head is kind of spinning on different directions, so I didn't want to have to focus on that today. I just wanted to do a bit of a music show and see what came out. Okay, so the Spoons, they did Tell No Lies. I did meet them, and I just mentioned that they were kind of looking into talking to me, but it didn't turn out. Number 88, The New Pornographers. Another band that kind of had a song. You heard them once, you heard them twice, then you say, who are these guys? Because they just never stayed. No staying power. They just couldn't. They couldn't lock into the psyche of the Canadian audience for more than a year or two. If I'm wrong and somebody's listening, they can correct me. Number 87, Danko Jones, another guy, flashed into the public eye for a few months. a year or two. Can't remember anything about what the songs were like, but I think I did try to listen to him about 5, 6 years ago, and I thought the guy had some talent, but maybe it's just one of those things. If you, it's like a plant. If it gets sunlight and water, it grows. If you just let the rain fall on it for 30 seconds and move on, then your mind can't absorb the current situation of, or the past situation of an act. Lee Aaron, I did sit through a show of hers, very gimmicky. 1990, 91. I had a friend that was into her. I went. Nothing stuck about the show. She had a snake or so, a fake snake. It's very rare. It's a very distant memory of the concert. I remember not enjoying it because I didn't know any songs. And then I saw some some show about what she's doing on YouTube, and she had a nice house in Toronto, and she had a few, maybe a couple of thousand records that she saved, and so she must have had a decent career, even though nobody outside of Canada really gave her much attention. But look, if you run around Canada for 10 years and you tour, and your records sell maybe a few hundred thousand over 20 years or whatever her story is, maybe you could buy a home and live off that. And maybe she could do a few shows here and there once this pandemic flies over. Number 85, Moist. Okay. The guy located in Montreal. What's his name? I can't remember his name. David Usher. See, I do remember. Moist is good. He's got that kind of weepy, sad voice and very deep songs. He had some good videos. Kind of looked like they were headed somewhere. They broke up. Then the guy kind of popped out a couple of solo records, and it's similar to the Tea Party type of thing, where they have a following. They're kind of around. They make a living, but they didn't break through in a major way. Biff Naked, another show I saw, kind of felt the whole thing was over my head. Didn't feel it was anything I could relate to. Very loud, screechy punk, screaming. I didn't. It was a friend of mine who I'm not friends with, not because he's not a nice guy. It's because I quit the gambling world, and I think he's still in the gambling world. So I had to kind of break away. But I went with him, and it was like I don't know. I couldn't get into the concert, and then she kind of cleaned up her, not cleaned up, but she kind of came. She tried to mainstream herself. She was a punker with tats everywhere, screaming. But then a few years later, she was on a Music Plus or Much Music show, or a CBC show where she was a lot more mainstream. I doubt if that caught on in a huge way, but I don't know if she's still around or what she's doing. She's probably doing something in music. Number 83, Monster Truck. I can't remember much about these guys. The name means something, but 82, Sass Jordan. I have seen this girl 2 or 3 times, opening up for other acts, a free concert. She had a little bit of a name, rep, like her name meant something for a while in the music business. She had about like tell somebody. Then she there was a story where she had done some studio work for some famous artists. So she got herself known. She got herself into the business in the U.S. She broke through in a small way. Her album charted in the low 175s or whatever. I mean, there was some kind of a slight connection with the American audience. And I like her voice. She seems like she's got her act together musically. She had that 3 or 4 songs, and the live concerts I saw I liked. So she was entertaining, and she had a good career, more than the last few that I mentioned. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the buttons on here, and I really do pray I'm not muting, like not at the point where nobody can hear me. If you're on the live chat, there's another person who joined. Maybe you could tell me if you can hear me okay, because it's been a while. There's somebody there. It's been a while since I've been doing the show, so I don't know if I hooked everything up correctly or not, but I'll just keep rolling. I'm not sure it is, but thank you for joining my rarely appreciated show. Alexisonfire, number 81. Maybe you remember this band. Kind of an indie band, kind of a band that Were they Montreal based? Ontario? I think Ontario. Uh, Maybe they came around when I was kind of phasing out local radio, which is shown for me. So I kind of don't know much about them. Just I do know the name. Feist. I don't know. Everybody made a big deal about this girl. There was a big up, like one, two, three, four was this song, and they were all like heaping praise on Feist. And then she did a free concert at a jazz fest, and I don't know. I never got into her. I just found the song one, two, three, four kind of very bland, and every once in a while there's an artist that people make a big deal about, lavish praise about. I hear one or two songs, and I don't catch on. Not to say she's not talented. I mean, if so many people liked her, I'm guessing that she must have had more to it than that one song, which was just average to me. One, two, three, four was the song. Okay, let's go to number 70. The Pursuit of Happiness. This band I liked because they had that. I'm an adult now. I bought the cassette actually. They were from like, was it Alberta, Ontario, something like that. They had this like REM look to them, where they had this cool. I don't like the word cool, but like hip type of look, and they had some producer that was well known. I forget who it was. Some guy produced them that had a big reputation, but it could have been one of the like Rick Ocasek or one of these guys. I don't want to start clicking around looking for the answer. So they look like they were headed somewhere, like for the big time actually. And well, I don't know. Didn't make it. Didn't last long. They had that break. They had another two songs which I liked. And thanks for liking the show. I don't know who you are, but I really do appreciate it. It's been a bit of a down time, so I'm happy somebody's listening. But anyway, Pursuit of Happiness. Every once in a while, I look in to see how bands are doing. Five Man Electrical Band. Okay, they did have big American hits. The biggest one was Signs. Signs. Everywhere is a sign. Blocking out the scenery mess in my mind. I love them. 90, 74, 73. I think Dina Gopian, who was a local announcer, was in the early version of this band, or in another band that had members of this band. So they kind of were they actually broke through in the United States. They had other songs. I'm a stranger here in this place called Earth. This is 1974, 75. Great sound. I mean, good pop. Nothing inferior, nothing like non-commercial. They were very commercial, very catchy. I hope they prospered because it's very rare to have a breakthrough in the U.S. So there must be way in the past. I can't believe this band exists. It's just no way. Number 77, The Glorious Sons. Going to go fast with that one because I've only heard their name and I don't know much about them. Mahogany Rush. Here's the memory I have of a Mahogany Rush. 17 years old, I was in Place des Nations, which is a Montreal live. I worked in a restaurant, and like a mile away there was live music playing, and it was Mahogany Rush. This guy he played at California Jam, I think. This guy, what's his name? Mahogany Rush. Frank Marino, and this guy became like a guitar wizard. He was considered this Hendrixian type guy. Had this mystique about him that he was a brilliant guitarist. He produced a band that I saw live, Icy Red. I once tried to ask him questions on the internet about it. I don't think he answered. He's a huge sports fan. Talks about the Expos. He used to be on Mitch Melnick's radio show. So he's around, but Mahogany Rush, they did kind of get some success. But we're talking in the 70s, so that's a long time ago. 75. Who is The Watchmen? I did like these guys. They were from Winnipeg. I wish I could remember the couple of songs they did have, but I'm pretty sure they didn't get past the Canadian marketplace. But they had those two songs, which the FM radio in my city did give a lot of airplay to. So I appreciated that band for the while that they did play. Number 74. They were in a rock vein. This is Eddie G's Music World, by the way, September 14th, 2020. The Kings. Now, it was weird because on the Kings video, they had a song called Switching to Glide, right? And they were like, they got in the mid 40s in the Billboard charts in the early, like 1980. The Switching to Glide, it was very good. And I made some comments on their video, positive comments that I wish they were around and touring. And one of the members saw the comment and he said, "Well, it's nice that you think that we would do well touring, but the truth is, we would lose our shirts." He says, "At this point, nobody in 2019 or 18, whenever it was about 2 years ago, is going to go run out and spend more than, we're not going to get more than 40 to 60 people at a concert. And we can't charge a lot of money." He didn't say that exact quote, but he was basically saying our popularity would be very, very little. And he said his memories of Montreal, because I mentioned Montreal, were that they were not overly, there was not a massive buzz about the band. So he said there's no way they're going to start digging up a tour and start to try to go on the road when they didn't think they could bring in a lot of money. So he had a bit of a, it was nice that he talked to me and he gave me a true answer to my question, which is pretty rare. Number 73, Teenage Head, punk band, 79, 78. What was their song? I can't remember it. There's a song in my head, and it's bouncing around, but I can't feel it. And then Toronto is number 72. Bubbled Under. Remember they had a song that bubbled under, meaning on Billboard, if you get to number 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 or 7, that's called bubbling under. So they kind of like made a little tiny impression on the American market. Her name was Hollywood, I think. I forget her name, but they did have 2, 3 good songs. Toronto. What was that song they had? It was like a heavy rock song. They had about 3. I had hopes for them. I really kind of liked their music, and sadly to say, a lot of these types of bands. Listen, if a band like April Wine isn't touring much anymore, I doubt if Toronto's going to do much touring. 71, I Mother Earth. These guys always reminded me of Stone Temple Pilots. There was something about the singer, the way he looked with his blondish hair, his approach to the videos. I think there was a guy that left I Mother Earth. The singer left and then was replaced by another guy. So whatever momentum they had, this guy that was replaced, I don't remember what happened to the guy, but he was in it and then he just kind of left. And the new guy seemed like that new guy maybe lasted 1 or 2 songs, and I doubt if they're around. So here's number 70. Here's a girl who obviously doesn't have a lot to do with the majority of these last 30 bands I've talked about. Avril Lavigne did a Shania Twain Sound Alike contest, and I think she won the contest. We're talking about 1999 or 2000 or something like that. And she was only 14, and then she had this massive, massive breakthrough worldwide, huge hits, punky, upstart chick, cute little girl. Saw her live, was pretty impressed. She played guitar and things, played keyboards, played drums. Has a nice voice. She sustained her popularity a good 5 or 6 years in the American market, which I'm telling you, you may think that's nothing, but that's hard to do. She had a Japanese following. This girl must have piled up the millions and millions. Of course, this is 2020. 2019, she came out with something. Don't ask me what was on that record. I have no clue. It just turned out to be something that didn't get played. Famously known for marrying the guy in that band, the short guy. Christ, what's wrong with my mind? I used to pride myself on knowing these trivial things. They were a hard rock band. The guy had a fainting episode. He was in a hospital. I don't know. They got divorced. Now the second guy is Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. Pretty sure they're kind of they're in the kind of in the outs at this point, or maybe they're still friends and they're still married. But I heard that relationship was kind of rocky. And look, she had Lyme disease, so that set her back a few years of problems. And I just can say that she's one of the few that managed to sustain a really good career. So even if she ducks it out of, even if she's an oldies act when the touring restarts, she's still somebody that can say she did something almost 5% of the Canadian acts can do and may become superstars. So I'm gonna cut it here. It's 25 minutes of fun. I pulled. I'm glad I did the show. I hope somebody liked it and some other people will hear it. It's Eddie G's Music World, and I promise to put more effort into this. I have some issues I'm going through, and I'm trying to focus on my show to do it more despite my distractions. So that's not an excuse. I still have to do the best I can. Take care. We'll see you as soon as I can maybe try another one next week. Goodbye.